Welcome to part 2 of looking at the financial forecast model that we have created for you as part of our capstone project. At this point, we are looking at the final tab of this file, and this one in particular we just created as a unique tool for you to play with based off of some of the skills that we have within our team. And what this allows you to do is to think hypothetically about what are going to be your constraints in terms of how many cases you have available to sell, maybe limits within your particular channels, and to see what mix of how I sell my wine is going to create the most value and profit for me in a year. So this is a really simple model using something that's called a linear program. Again, green cells are your levers for changing. So you can, again, like I showed before, you can modify what your production costs are. You can modify what your assumed margin cut is. You can also modify your base price. And one thing that's important to call out within how I developed this model is that in your initial data that was given to us, it had GC and its potential revenue, as well as the base sell price included as data within it. And what I did for building this model was allowed that to be a category you could play with as well. While I know that the revenue of the GC wine is not going to be on Sedimentary's balance sheet, if it's something that's curious to you, you can play with it within this model. Additionally, if you would like me to remove it, you can make a request for that as well. Looking at this, only area to change is your base price. What happens down here is there's an automatic calculation around your revenue per case, and then taking into account all the way up here the total cost per case. I've then calculated your contribution margin based upon your channel and then based upon the brand. Down here in this little box, you have your constraints, which are in green, which are the areas that you're going to play with when you develop scenarios. So across the bottom, cases available is ultimately saying, of my reserve brand, in this scenario I'm thinking about, I want to only have 80 cases. Of the Armstrong wine, maybe in this scenario I'm going to have 600 cases available. And then in the GC wine, maybe I don't even want to include it in this analysis, so I just say there's 0 cases available. Then across over here on the side with channel constraints, this goes to how much can you sell within that channel. Maybe there's a constraint of just what's practical that can be sold through there. So maybe for your retail constraints, maybe you think you can only move 150 cases total, but for wholesale, maybe you got a key account, we'll just go big or go home and call it 400. And then maybe on FOB you want to think about, well, what would it look like if I limited things in this channel? Let's reduce it down to 50. And then the easy part is that from here, you use a tool called an Excel solver to automatically calculate what your distribution within your channels and focusing on what amount for each type of wine should be sold. So across the ribbons here on the top, you'll click data, you'll click solver. And if you don't see this little button here called solver, it is an add-in that you can put into your Excel for free. You can Google it, but just really quick, how you find it is you would go File, options, add-ins, and as you can see, I have added in the solver pack. If you don't see it there as an available add-in, you can click this button that says go, and it'll take you to options that you can add in. So I already have it added in. So when you do have it, you go over here to the right and click a little button here called Solver. And I've already done the hard work for you in setting up how this program should run this little scenario. Just to run you through it so you can understand, I've set the objective cell as your total profit, which is this gross margin that has an equation already set within it. I set it to I want it to optimize the maximum value. And I ultimately want you to change the cells that are right here in this little box. So just how much reserve you're selling at the retail channel, wholesale, FOB, etc. I also added in the constraints that says the total sum of your retail can't get bigger than 150 and so forth. And then you also go down here, I set a constraint that says your total of reserve can't go above 80. And then what you do is just make sure that this is selected to Simplex LP, which represents linear program, and click Solve. You'll see that this box comes up, and you'll also notice across the bottom that your totals have changed because it represented your channel constraints, and also you can see how gross margin changed overall. So those values that I had before all automatically got switched by just simply changing the cases available and channel constraints. So now you can see it says, oh yeah, you've definitely got to maximize all of Reserve brand being in the retail channel. With your Armstrong, you need to maximize out the wholesale channel and sell 70 within retail, and so forth. You can then, if you want to keep those results sitting there, you would just click OK. You can also save this scenario. If you didn't like what happened, you don't care to save it, you can just click cancel and it goes back to where it was before. So thank you for watching part 2 of our financial forecast model, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.